lay that foundation. But the roots of stigma related to HIV and maybe AIDS, I think stem right from there, where when it came and think about COVID
Yeah.
and what happened when we first heard of COVID. You were scared. You couldn't even cough in public because everyone is just looking at you with this, oh my gosh, could you have it? Um,
I am an African.
Yeah, I want to take a step back um, and like understand the roots of the stigma. And I think first, like we're speaking as though we all assume everyone knows what HIV and AIDS is. So first, like if you could just tell us what it is, and then why they were such, and as you said before, like the killer, like people couldn't even say the name. And I remember when I was growing up, there were some people who you'd notice like, and I'm not like speculating, but you'd notice that there'll be a lot of young people who are growing up without the parents, the dad or the mom, and it's the grandparents, right? So there'll be like, and I read somewhere there's a generation essentially like not void, but like lacking of people within the ages of 30 to 40 something. Uh, and people don't talk about it because it's a taboo subject. Like right now, we can talk about it, and there's posters. As you know, Nathan said, growing up, there was fight. Even the first president of Zambia had a song. He's not the best singer, but I mean, we love him. But he had a song about fighting HIV and AIDS. Um, and Mandela as well was quite active as well with the red ribbon, but it was like very, very, very taboo in African culture to even suggest that people are even having sex in the first place. Um, so yeah, let's just first of all, let's just like let us know what is this HIV and AIDS thing, Bob, and what are the roots of the stigma? Like what's that about?
yeah, great. I'm glad that we're taking this step back because we shouldn't assume. And we speak in acronyms, so I'm just gonna try to remember not to use them for now. But HIV, in very simple terms, is a virus that attacks the body's immune system. So that is basically what it is. And if HIV is left untreated, then that's when it sort of becomes AIDS, which is an acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. And that is when we speak about how people are able to live with HIV. So you've got a virus that's living in your body that is suppressed by taking a certain type of medication. And what we were speaking about with untreated HIV potentially leading to AIDS is when then you sort of have this immunodeficiency syndrome that could lead to sort of like open the gateways for other things because remember your immune system is compromised, and those then could potentially lead to death as well. So what we saw back then, Zeng, is exactly what we mentioned earlier in terms of there were just people were like dying, very sadly so. I mean, everybody, and I'm going to say this very confidently, is everybody has most likely lost family member, a neighbor, or community member to AIDS, particularly back in the day before we had sort of the new medication and research and information that we have. So we'll lay that foundation. But the roots of stigma related to HIV and maybe AIDS, I think stem right from there, where when it came and think about COVID
Yeah.
and what happened when we first heard of COVID. You were scared. You couldn't even cough in public because everyone is just looking at you with this, oh my gosh, could you have it? Um,
Black people don't have
so I
COVID.
used that and
There's
so I
conspiracies
used
about, yeah.
yeah, and all the conspiracies that were related to it. So I use that analogy because it's something that happened in our time. So you realize that there was a lot of fright and people were scared with COVID, just as people were scared with this thing that they didn't know and didn't understand. Um, and the different rumors and conspiracies, even just about what it was, how it is acquired, and all of that. So I think sometimes people are scared to talk about it because of just the way that our cultural, African cultural context tend to be conservative, but also because it has been very closely been linked to sex.
Yeah.
So people think HIV and then think sex.
And how do you bring
And that's not it's not necessarily always the case, right? So I think that is sort of where it started. But because of the way that it transitioned also over time, remember, we're coming from a phase where there was no medication and we're figuring it out. Think about COVID, and how it took so many lives because we didn't know what to do. Okay, now we must wear masks. Now we must sanitize. Now we must be mindful. We're doing all this breath work. So similar to what we saw back in the day, it was closely associated to just seeing the changes in people's bodies, pale skin, sometimes hair is falling off, sometimes we see sores on the body, that kind of stuff. So I think it's that has sort of laid a foundation for the growing stigma that we see even today, and moving even away from that because it has been quite some span. I think it's also just the sense of, like we said, um, relating HIV to people's sex lives is something as well, because it means then you're judging on that. So then what do we say? And I'm not going to attribute it to just that because it's not, but what do we say about children who are born with HIV and how we make them feel? So there's just a lot, I think, that people think. The other could also just be the way that sometimes we project our own things on people. So your understanding and sometimes even lack of knowledge. Because like Nathan rightfully said, we've sort of moved away from when there was a lot of information, and you'd be very shocked as to how many people actually know what's going on, even with the new medicine, even with the latest research that is clearly showing us light at the end of the tunnel. So, those are just some of the reasons why we've got this sort of deep-rooted stigma. And the way that we've spoken about, even just the language around HIV, think about the derogatory terms that we even have in our different national or local languages that are related to HIV or to AIDS. So yeah, that's basically where it's coming from.
But
Sure, go ahead.
for me, it's just interesting to see how um, like people's responses were, and especially bringing up the topic because it's so linked to things that in African culture are taboo to speak about. Um, I think Uganda, their first reaction was abstinence, and it brings also religious beliefs as well. You're going head on with religious beliefs on abstinence, on contraception, on all of these things. And the immediate response is just don't do it. Like the drug one, say no. Is it? I think say no, just say no. So different countries have tried different models, and it's, I think, put a lot of, especially Southern Africa, where the prevalence is the highest, put a lot of things to test. And I think to a degree it has changed our views on a lot of things. When a pandemic, people around you are dying, you have to start speaking about certain things. And I think the way you explained it, like with COVID, most people accepted to wear masks. There's certain adjustments that you make. Like most people accepted to wear masks. Most people accepted to be like have their nose invaded with a Q-tip and stuff. Similarly, with I think with HIV and AIDS, people have to incrementally. People have to, because even now sex is still a taboo topic. Nathan can't go to his mom and just be like, "Oh yeah, by the way." Yeah.
I think it should stay taboo, but just joking. Go ahead. Yeah.
No. That was just the point I wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also definitely agree. I think it's just the linking with I think predominantly like whenever you ask or whenever you think of how, I don't know, but like anytime you think about HIV and AIDS, the first thing that comes to your mind is sex. So I think that really did kind of a lot of damage. Sometimes my math teacher always used to say that what do you say? a lie can go around the world 6 times while the truth is still putting on its shoes. So it's like, I mean, of course, it's true that that's one way that it comes through, but there are also other ways that people can also obtain it.